Good evening. How are you doing? Very good. Welcome everybody here, and we also want to welcome everybody that's streaming us live from all across the States. We have visitors online. Tonight is a special night. Did you hear about it? It's the super blue blood moon. Yes, did you hear about it? Okay. If you don't know what it is, Google it, because we're not going to explain about that tonight. However, tonight is a full moon, and part of tonight's connection and lecture is about that. So we're going to learn about what's unique about the full moon, specifically of this month, the month of Aquarius, how it relates to, because the Kabbalists explained that the full moon of the month of Aquarius, called Tu B'Shvat, the 15th of the month of Aquarius, is considered to be the new year of the tree, so the new year of the plant, of the vegetation kingdom. And what we would like to learn is, how does it relate to us? How is it relevant to us in our day-to-day life? And with the emphasis on what we're going to share tonight is really the key points are simplicity and truth. Those are going to be our key points tonight. We're going to have an opportunity for interaction, for a little workshop, and we're going to conclude by a meditation that Elisheva Balas is going to guide us through that. You guys ready? Yeah. Okay. You guys at home ready? Good. So, first of all, we need to understand, as we said, the full moon, and as it relates to tonight being the new year of the vegetation kingdom. To understand that, we need to look at the vegetation kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the human kingdom. And the Kabbalists teach that those four kingdoms represent basically four different levels of desire. An interesting fact, the Kabbalists also teach us that we're an accumulation of all of these kingdoms. When mankind was created, man was created from all other three kingdoms, which means what, in essence? That we have part of the inanimate kingdom within us. We have part of the animal kingdom within us. We have the vegetation kingdom within us. And so tonight, when we're talking about being the new year of the vegetation kingdom, meaning tonight is an infusion of energy, a boost of energy that the entire vegetation kingdom receives, it means also that a part within us receives that energy, receives that aspect. And in order to understand what does it really mean for us, the energy of the vegetation kingdom, I need to guide you briefly through a very essential, basic Kabbalistic concept, which is called the three-column system. How many columns? Three. Okay. So we're going to run briefly through it, one by one, in order to really understand the vegetation kingdom, how it relates to us, focusing on key concepts. You guys ready? Okay, so we start with the right column. The right column, then there is the left column, and the central column. And we can address it from many different angles and explain it in many different angles. For tonight's purpose, we like to keep it simple. Few examples. The right column represents Kabbalistically the energy of sharing, of mercy. Also, the color associated with that is white, because white is a color that reflects, it gives back. And we'll also share for each column which patriarch, which means which one of the chariots, as we call them, which is a human being that walked on this earth, that channeled that energy of the right column energy, left column, and central column. Don't need to remember all these facts, okay? We'll get to a point in just a moment. The channel for this right column energy is called Abraham. Okay, Abraham the patriarch. On the left column, we have receiving aspect. That's the receiving element within us. Also can represent judgment. Therefore, the color associated with that, according to the Zohar, the ancient text of Kabbalah, is red. Not coincidentally, judgment and bloodshed, right? The reason why, according to the Kabbalists, the color of our blood is red, there's a reason for that, why it's not blue and why it's not green, why it's not yellow. Why is it red? Because red represents the aspect of left column energy, of judgment. Now we come to really the important part for tonight. What does the central column represent? Central column represents balance, the balance between receiving and sharing. It also represents circuitry. And one example that we can already see from that is how it relates to the vegetation kingdom. We see plants, vegetation, they take in CO2 and they give out oxygen. Right? They're the perfect example of how circuitry is manifested, because the vegetation kingdom is connected to the central column, is connected to balance. And we'll see also how it relates to us. According to the Zohar, the color associated with the central column, with the Tiferet, the central column, is the color green. And therefore we understand not coincidentally that the vegetation kingdom is associated with this color. Nothing is by chance, says the Kabbalist. As below, so above, and vice versa. Everything that we see here in this physical world is a manifestation and a reflection of something in the supernal worlds. So the color green of the plant kingdom indicates, is telling us something about the central column, something about balance, something about circuitry that we can access, especially tonight. Last but not least, the chariot, the channel that brought down this conduit of central column energy was Jacob the patriarch. And I would like to focus on two things that Jacob represents. The scripture is telling us. Number one, Jacob is associated with simplicity. And number two, that Jacob is associated with is truth. It says in the Bible, Yaakov Ishtam, Jacob was a simple man, which we'll like to know what it really means. And truth was given to Jacob. So how can we, through the attributes of simplicity and truth or authenticity, create balance, inner balance in our life? Would you like to learn about that? Okay. So what we're going to do tonight mainly is we're going to learn from a Kabbalist that's very dear to me. I'm very excited to share some of his writings tonight with you. So we're going to read some of them together. They're going to be also up on the screen for those who are streaming with us as well. And just to share with you a little bit of a background about this Kabbalist, I think and believe that it will help us to value and appreciate his teachings even more. His name is Rav Kalmos Kalman Shapira, or his nickname is the Esh Kodesh. And he wrote a few books that were published before the Holocaust. And many of his books he wrote during the Holocaust in Poland. And before he passed away, during the Holocaust, he buried many of his scripture in his writings with a note, whoever is going to find it, please send it to my relative in Israel. And indeed, his writings were found by a British soldier, and that's how we have many of his writings today, which is really an incredible story by and within itself. So I'm going to start with the first section. I'm going to have it also up on the screen, and then we'll stop and explain a little bit. The Esh Kodesh writes, conduct yourself with simplicity and genuineness at all times. Simple sincerity is the clothing that the soul wears in everyday life. Manipulation is the opposite of soulfulness. It's the triumph of rationalization. I read it many, many, many times, and each time I find so much beauty, so much depth and truth in it. What Esh Kodesh is telling us here is that really the essence of our very soul, the clothing of our soul, as he calls it, is simplicity. And any time when we're connected to the guidance of our soul, we behave in simplicity. We behave with authenticity. Anytime we're using too much of our logic, too much of our rationalization, we are making things too complicated, it's an indicator for one thing. We already know that we're going on a journey that is disconnecting us from our soul. And we need to define, again, make clear what we mean by simplicity. Some people think, mistakenly, that, simple people are naive people, or stupid people, right? That's not what we're talking about. Of course, using our common sense, of course, there's reason why logic or the left side of the brain was given to us. We need it. But we're talking about times when we're overdoing it, when we're overanalyzing, rationalizing, thinking things over and over, and then over again, and asking people, and what do you think? And it starts to become such a complicated thing in our mind. We're starting to become disconnected from the simplicity of our soul. It said something very interesting. When the Kabbalist describes the process of creation, the Kabbalist says that in the beginning, there was simple light, pashut, simple light that filled the entire existence. Now, one might ask or think, when describing the light of the Creator, one could use many different attributes to describe it. Many different ways to describe the light of the Creator. We can call it loving light, we can call it all-encompassing light, merciful light, sharing light. The Kabbalists called it simple light. Why? Because this is the true essence of the light of the Creator. And the main indicator to see if we're connected to that and connected to the guidance of our soul, if we behave in that way, if we are simple, if we embody that simplicity. And when we're not, we know it's also that simple. I might be making all kinds of explanations in my head that sound very smart to me and sound smart to others. Doesn't make a difference. I know already it is disconnected from the guidance of my soul when I'm deviating from that simplicity. Now he's giving the example of a plant. The plant flourishes with simple truth. There's no artifice, there's no faking. The plant grows because the power within it, because it has the innate compunction to flower and sprout. Anyone who is guided by the light of his or her soul is also simple and true. Think about it. Right? Think about the plant. There are no calculations there. There's no, maybe I'm going to grow better this way or faster this way, or what are the other plants thinking of me and how I'm growing? Maybe I'm not growing good enough. There are no calculations. It's just this innate force that makes it grow. And remember, we have that force within us too. When we were created out of all the kingdoms, all these components. And when we behave in such a way, when we are connected to that simple truth within us, that simplicity, then we're also acting in this way. We're behaving in this way. Our words, our feelings, our actions match that way, in that simplicity, which is really, really beautiful if we think about it. He goes on, he gives examples, for instance, when we're talking with children. Right? When you talk to a child, the answer that you'll get back, you feel, you sense that it's coming directly from the soul. Right? There's no faking there, for sure. Whatever they're telling you, it's like exactly what they think. Right? There's no filter, no. And I'm not saying that we always should do that, right? We're adults. We need to use our common sense sometimes when it comes to saying the words that, we should calculate. Maybe it's going to hurt the other person. Maybe I shouldn't be so blunt. Yes, absolutely. But how much of that? Think about it. How many times, was there a moment in life when you found yourself calculating too much? And how you're going to give the answer? If I'm going to say this, they're going to think I'm less than that. Maybe if I'm going to say it in this way, or maybe I'm going to use this word and I'm going to say this way. I want to sound a certain way. I want to be perceived in a certain way. I don't want them to look down on me. I want to look good. I want to pretend. I want all these things, all these calculations. When we lose touch with our inner self and that simplicity that is already residing within us, we're taking off the path of disconnection, a path of complication. We're not any longer connected, as the Eshkodesh says, to the guidance of our soul, that simple guidance of our soul. In our speech, he is saying, speak simply and directly from your heart. Your mind is being used as a tool to facilitate the straightforward expression of your heart. Let's think about it next time when we're interacting with others. Because we're interacting with others all the time. When was the last time when you paused and you asked the question, where am I coming from? Am I coming from my logic, from my brain? Or am I only using my brain as a vehicle, as an instrument, to facilitate, as the Eshkole said, the straightforward expression of my heart? How difficult is it at times to just express what we feel inside? But why? Because there are so many masks, so many layers, so many covers, so many years of trying to pretend to show something on the outside that doesn't match the inside. So much time and energy wasted into fears in how others are going to perceive me, or fear and wanting to protect myself, protect my inner child, not wanting to be hurt. But the inner child within us is simple, doesn't make these calculations, just is upfront, is authentic. We want to go back to that. We want to find and connect to that inner child. And tonight I'm giving you this information, this teaching, and hopefully it's going to awaken us a little bit. Also through the workshop, we're going to be able to internalize it more. But what I really hope is with the meditation at the end, that we're really going to be able to let it sink in. With assistance tonight, with this full moon, with this energy to really open our heart and remove all these facades, all these blockages, all that. And we feel that, right? We feel that inside. We feel each time when we behave in a way on the outside that doesn't match the inside, doesn't feel good. Something is off. We know it. All we need to do is to go back and find that simplicity that is in our heart, that inner child within us. Think about the people that you like to be around with. The people that we like to be around are usually the people that we think we know. We know them, right? We know what we get. The people that we appreciate they're not complex. We already know them. And therefore we feel we can trust them because we know where they're coming from. Even if they're with their imperfections and their shticks and all the stuff that they have, at least we know where their heart is, where the intention is. And those are the people we feel comfortable around. But people that, you don't know what you will get, or the people that will backstab you, the people that are one day like this, the other like not trustworthy. Or people that don't put the words where the money is, right? They're like, you don't know. It's hard for us to trust these people. So we want to become these people that are really guided by that simplicity and by that authenticity. Another interesting fact, and I really like this example, many times we use words in Hebrew to indicate, to show us, because the words in Hebrew, they have numerical value and there are secrets in that, so no Hebrew word is by chance. And so I want to give you the example for the Hebrew word of simplicity, which in Hebrew is called tam. Tam means simple, 2 letters. And this interesting thing is the Kabbah said when we only reverse these 2 letters, when you reverse them, then you have the word met, which means dead. Which is telling us one thing. Simplicity, simple, is like being like the light, simple light, connecting to the guidance of our soul. When we're deviating from the path of simplicity and authenticity, and we're trying to be something that we're not, or we're making things too complicated in our head and overthinking, overanalyzing, yada, 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 then what does it mean, dead? It doesn't mean that we drop dead, but dead means a disconnect. Yes, death is the ultimate disconnect, but there are many levels of death. So let's remember that. Let's remember that. Simplicity does not mean naive, does not mean stupid, does not mean even just simple. It means being connected to my soul, being connected to the light of the Creator. And every time I catch myself, it's getting too complicated, doesn't matter what. My ego will try to convince me, no, you need to think it over again and again. How many times does it help us? How many times did you find yourself it being really helpful, think over and over again after you overthought them over and again? Right? It doesn't make things better. Usually switching gears back to simplicity is the better solution. Because we, with our brain, with using 4% of our brain, using our 5 senses, there's so little that we can really understand, see, fathom, just using our brain. But at least when we're simple, we can receive the guidance of our soul. We can see that which our ego does not allow us to see. So for a little interaction, or before that, let's put it this way, to make it even more clear, that there are really two factors that take us off balance in our simplicity. And these two factors are, number one, when we're not true to ourselves. When the inside does not match the outside. You know, it says that the time in Jerusalem, in the time when the Holy Temple existed, within the Holy Temple, which was a vehicle to bring light to the entire world and positive energy to the entire world, within the Holy Temple there was the Holy of Holies, and within the Holy of Holies there was the Ark. Once a year the high priest used to go in there, do his meditations, and really bring light to the entire world. And it says something interesting, that within the Holy of Holies in the Ark, we've been told, was covered with gold on the outside and on the inside. And some asking the valid question, why to waste gold on the inside of the Ark if actually it wasn't even being used? Only once a year, one man would go into the Holy of Holies, but not even open the Ark. Nobody sees it. What for? Why to waste all this gold on the inside? On the outside, okay, maybe for the high priest once a year, it looks nice for him, but on the inside, what for? Today we don't have the Holy Temple, but each and every one of us has a temple within. And we have a Holy of Holies, which is our heart. Nobody can see that. Nobody can really look inside, only us. And there needs to be gold, there needs to be value, and we need to cherish and know and appreciate that value. And it needs to match the outside. It needs to be inside as it is on the outside, exactly the same. That's really what simplicity means. But when we're not true to ourselves, when the inside does not match the outside, there's a disconnect. From tam, it becomes met. There's a disconnect. We're cutting ourselves off somewhere. The second thing that can take us off balance in our simplicity is when we're too calculative with our sharing. When we're deviating from simple sharing without calculations. Calculated sharing. Ever happened to you, right? Somebody asks you, oh, can you help me on Wednesday night? I'm moving a house, and say, well, you know you're free, right? You know you're completely free, but you don't feel like it at all, right? And you're making all these calculations in your head and say, let me think about it, let me check my calendar, I'll get back to you, right? We're not jumping on we're not simple. Oh, somebody needs help? Of course, I'm here for you. Right? We're making these calculations. Or we're thinking we get an opportunity to share or add value somewhere or be in service somewhere, but we don't feel like it, so we think, is there maybe someone else that can do it? Right? With all these calculations in our mind. When we get opportunities to make a difference or to share in small ways, in big ways, and we're deviating from that simplicity and we're starting to make all these justifications and calculations in our mind, it can also take us off balance. Remember that with simplicity and staying truthful for ourselves, we are connected to the central column. We're connecting to that aspect within us that is balance, and we'll feel it. will feel it. It will feel good. It will feel internally balanced. But whenever it comes to these calculations in our sharing, or when we act not truthful to ourselves, it will take us off our inner balance. Okay? So those are the 2 points. Now, for our workshop part and a little interaction, are you guys ready? I would like you to share, maybe in groups of 2 or 3 around the table. Think of a time when you found yourself involved in something that wasn't aligned with your values. Okay? So, it could have been a time when you just didn't feel like you behaved like yourself in certain circumstance, or when your words did not match your actions and your inner truth, or might have been doing a conversation, right, where you really said something, but you know you didn't feel this way, you know you didn't mean it, you either just wanted to impress, or you just wanted to sound smart around other people, but you had no clue what you're talking about actually. Anything, or you started or in business or at work, or you started to work on a certain project and you started to make business with certain people and you knew it didn't feel right, there was something off, and deep inside the simplicity within us told us, no, just let it go, do but we went for it anyway. So try to think of a time, as it says, right, when you found yourself involved in something, anything, relationship, business, anything that wasn't aligned with your core values. Okay? Groups of 2 or 3, for those who are streaming us live, you can do it with yourself or write it down. If you have a partner to do it with, even better. Let's give it 5 minutes. Okay, ready for the next part? Yes? Okay. The streamers are also ready at home. So I'd like to use one more example, another aspect that can help us understand why it pays off to stay in this core value of simplicity within us, and how it relates to what we call the ecosystem. But not the natural ecosystem that we know, there's also a spiritual ecosystem. But let's first of all talk about the ecosystem that we're familiar with, of nature. See, in nature, there's also that simple flow of things, right? If man doesn't interfere, things are flowing naturally. Things are flowing naturally. There's the circle of life. There's things happening naturally in a beautiful way that we can see in nature. Even the things that on the outside look not good, right? I was told recently that there are certain fires that can start that are actually natural and good and healthy for the environment, for the forest, for nature. And if man would interfere and try to put off these fires, it would cause more harm than good. So fireman learns which fires are good and which ones are not. Obviously, the ones that were man-made and interferes are not the good ones, as we've seen it here. But there's certain ones in nature that are good, actually. So not coincidentally, again, I said that in Hebrew there are numerical values, and oftentimes it can give us an indication and secrets on things. Not coincidentally, the Hebrew word for nature is teva, which has the same numerical value as the word Elokim, which is the name for God. So we can see that there is divinity, there is light, there is the light of the Creator within nature. And many of the Kabbalists would go out to nature and meditate and pray and find the divinity there. Because there's a natural flow of things that happen by itself. And if anything, if mankind makes things too complicated or disrupts that flow that exists naturally, that's where chaos starts happening. I'm using this example because, as I said, there's also what we call a spiritual ecosystem. What does it mean, a spiritual ecosystem? A natural flow of things in our life. And we have glimpses of that at times when we experience synchronicity, when things fall into place, when we're at the right place at the right time, finding the right person exactly when we need it, when we receive exactly what we need, when we need it, and we just feel like, wow, we feel overwhelmed, we feel there's so much synchronicity, we feel the hands of the Creator must be in there. That's anytime we manage to connect ourselves to the spiritual ecosystem. And the more we stay in that, what we call simplicity, and act in simplicity, and our inside matches the outside, the more we can connect ourselves to that support system and receive the support system of the spiritual ecosystem. Being in the right place at the right time, the right things come to us when we need them without too many complications. Because when we deviate from that simplicity, again, we're trying to manipulate to get the things. We're coming from a place of lack, we're coming from a place of fear and worry, and this is what actually messes up the spiritual ecosystem and causing things to come later and not at their time. When we worry too much and complicate too much and doubting the system that it won't come. Maybe it won't come. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? Actually, one of the Kabbalists, Rabbi Elimelech of Ligen, says that since a person comes into this world, there are channels, spiritual channels set up for that person to receive all the blessings that they need in their life. Can you imagine? Everything that the person needs, everything that that soul needs is already set up since the moment they come into this world. However, we grow up, and as we start to become more complicated, and we start to make calculations, and we start to rationalize, and we start to doubt these natural channels that are set up, anytime a person interferes with a doubt, with uncertainty, with calculations, and making things too complicated, these channels that are straightforward and set up since time of birth, taking a detour. So you're supposed to get it exactly on time, but you're making things more complicated than they actually are? Okay, let's take a detour. Or as the GPS, my Waze says, recalculate. Right? Okay, don't worry, you'll get it. But it won't come now as simple as it's supposed to be. Why? Not because the light is not simple, not because the Creator is not simple, not because there isn't any synchronicity in spiritual ecosystem, because you and me, we all make things too complicated. And when we make them complicated, they become complicated. Self-fulfilling prophecy. So we said when man interferes in the ecosystem of nature, there can be chaos. When we interfere in the spiritual ecosystem with lack of simplicity, there's different types of chaos. Right? On the other hand, on a positive note, when we stay in that simplicity and being truthful to ourselves and act accordingly with that simplicity, then we can speed things up. We can receive all the support, the entire support of the spiritual ecosystem, everything around, the entire cosmos and spiritual entities, and everything is there to support us if we remain in that force of simplicity. If you look at the sun, for instance, the sun just shines, just doing its work. There's no calculation, well, should I shine today? I'm not so sure. You know what? Yesterday, there were so many people cursing me that I shine too bright, and I gave them a heat stroke, right? It was too terrible for them. Maybe, today I decide not to shine because I feel offended, right? Imagine the sun would start making these calculations. We'll be in a bad shape, right? Luckily, the sun is not complicated and just functioning, just doing its work. Or as the Eshkori said, the example of the plant, right? It just grows because it has the force to grow. Nature has a force that just is. There are no complications, it's just doing its job. The sun also doesn't go on ego trips. Oh, look at me. I'm the center of the universe. I'm the center of attention here. Look how much I provide. Look how much I give. Right? No. Simple. I'm shining. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I was created for. So I'm doing it. We can be in the same way. One of the Kabbalists said, and it's actually written on his tombstone because that was what he was known for, said, don't be too proud when you're doing your spiritual work because that's what you were created for. It's like a bird doesn't get any ego for its ability to fly. Oh, look at me, I'm flying. Yeah, you're a bird. You can do that. That's what you were created for, right? So all the things, right? All the things that are taking us off balance, right? Either getting too much pride from the good things that we're doing or being offended when people think, right? It's basically deviating us from that simplicity and just do what I'm supposed to do. There's a beautiful story about Aaron the high priest, the brother of Moses, that when he got the job, a very big job and a very big title, to light the candelabra in the Holy Temple, which was an action, a simple action, but brought, again, tremendous spiritual light to the entire world. And his brother Moses received very clear instructions from the Creator directly and how to do it. So Moses passed on the instructions to Aaron, and the commentator says, giving him all kinds of praises, that Aaron did it exactly how it's supposed to. He didn't change anything. That Aaron did not change. And let me ask you, what kind of praise is that? If you would receive very clear instructions directly from the Creator on what to do, would we deserve praise for not changing anything? How dare we change anything about the direct instructions coming from the Creator? No, you know what? I think I know better. Well, why praise? He just did it. So it says that the praise was not for the fact that he didn't change anything about the instructions, but the fact that he himself did not change. He didn't allow this title or this position to change him. He said, okay, today the Creator wants me to light the candelabra, to bring light to the entire world, to create peace for the entire world. If that's what I'm supposed to do, I'll do it. If tomorrow the Creator changes his mind and he wants me to wash the floor, I'll wash the floor. I'll do that. I just want to do what the Creator wants me to do. I'm simple. I don't have any calculations. I don't have any preferences. Just let me do what I'm supposed to do. No glory, no this, no that. Balance with simplicity. The Esh Kodesh, and I want to close with that before we get into the meditation. The Esh Kodesh sharing with us what happens, what are the benefits if we train that muscle. If we train that muscle of simplicity and staying true to ourselves. What are the benefits? How does the life of a person looks like? Walking this path, training this muscle. Because we all have our days when we calculate, none of us is perfect, but the idea is to be aware of it and we're able to train this muscle. What are the benefits of that? If you make this a regular practice, your heart and soul will be guided by a powerful will. You will sense what is needed in each situation. Your deeds, your perspective, and interactions will be full of the truth and power that emanate from your innermost self. I don't know about you, but it's definitely something that I wish for myself, to be able to feel every day. It's a good goal to have, and I wish that for you too. And for this next and final part, I'm going to ask Elisheva to come to the front and helping us to, as I said, those are words, and hopefully they're going to awaken something within, but I believe especially about this subject and topic is only appropriate to really be guided through a meditation that we can really connect to that inner essence or that inner child. I'm very happy, and I think we're all lucky to have Elisheva guiding us through it.
So, as Daniel shared, and for some of us, we've connected on, I think, to a lot of the things that Daniel shared, right? They're not just concepts that, obviously it was a beautiful lecture, but it's like every word that I heard, it reminded me of something from the past, a situation I was in, or, a moment that I might have compromised and how I brought myself back. And one of the goals of this meditation tonight is to take us back to a time where we were more simple, and to give us a way to reconnect to that part of us that's still there. It may have layers over it or phrases it's replaced with the original knowledge or wisdom that it contained, and for sure we're in touch with that message once in a while. We want to use the power of everything we've just learned and the energy of tonight to stay more in touch with that energy. So if it's okay with you, we're going to relax. We're going to take it down a notch. And as maybe we can put on a little music and lower the lights a little bit and see if I'm afraid you guys are going to fall asleep, honestly. But I think it's important to tap into that power that's there. So if you have a meditation technique that helps you connect, you're more than welcome to use that as well. But for those of you that need the assistance like me, I'm going to ask you to sit comfortably in your chairs and uncross your arms and legs. We learned that our bodies are conduits for energy, and we don't want to cross any of those wires in making this connection. And as you take a few deep breaths at your own pace, in whatever way you're comfortable, close your eyes. And imagine in your mind's eye the most relaxing, natural setting you can think of. For some of you, it might be on the shore with the waves of the ocean crashing near you. For others, it may be in a quiet forest, on a mountainside. For others, the desert might be the most tranquil place in nature. But wherever it is, imagine yourself there now. Take in the smells. Notice the colors around you. The plants. There may be grass underneath your feet. Feel the breeze, the temperature. And in this tranquil, peaceful place, imagine yourself getting younger, going back in time, rewinding the clock. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Maybe you don't need the glasses anymore. The hair is growing back. You maybe find yourself getting shorter. Let's try to turn back time to when we were truly young, maybe 4 or 5, when things were simple and we were playful and innocent and trusting. And notice how this version of you has so much energy and is so inspired and creative. And vibrant, full of joy, innocence. This you is still in you. That's how you can call on this energy, these feelings. This is your inner child. It's who you are if you take away the fears and the pessimism and the hurt and the insecurity. Those things are not us. This preschooler is us. Imagine you see this version of you in this natural setting. How can you help but just give this child a hug? A hug of love and compassion and care. Tune into this child. Try to understand, what does your inner child want you to know? Listen to what they have to tell you, to remind you about you and who you are and how much hope there is, and how that inner voice inside you always knows the right thing to do. That spark inside you is always guiding you to be in the right place at the right time. and how you can always trust that voice inside you. Let's take a deep breath. And release any of those qualities that separate you from this version of yourself, from this sweet, gentle version of you. Like a tree sheds dead bark, like the plant renews its stem, like the flowers shed their leaves, like the trees experience a moment of renewal and rebirth every year. Let's shed those fears and those feelings, whether of abandonment or rejection, of negative past experiences, and let that light of our inner child radiate and guide us. And let's use this opportunity as we connect to the small us, the young us, as a reminder that when we come into the world, those first few years, we are so connected to the light. Things are so simple. That's the closest we are to our true selves. So let's take a moment now to connect completely and fully to that person. That is us, inside us. That inner child that only knows joy and love and gentleness and fun and excitement. That doesn't want to go to sleep at bedtime and doesn't mind eating things that are not good for us. That part of us that has the luxury of time and doesn't have responsibility, that doesn't have to calculate, will there be enough for me? Are they going to remember me? How is this going to affect me later on? That part of us that knows how to live in the present. And let's store that energy in a place inside us, in our heart, or in our gut, or in our pocket, but in a place where we can call on it when we find ourselves complicating things, confusing things, making things dramatic and heavy and intense. We can call on that voice because that voice is inside us. Let's take a final moment to capture any last message that that sweet child wants to share with us. A message of hope or creativity or inspiration. Just listen. And if you can, I'd like you to imagine a seed in your mind's eye, a seed that's being watered, nourished with sunlight, that begins to sprout. and grow. Roots, leaves, branches, blossoms. Watch it grow into a plant or a tree or a bush, whatever you can imagine. And when it's fully in bloom, you can open your eyes. Thank you for joining us. I want to share with you 3 upcoming opportunities to connect here at the center. Different, very different opportunities, but 3 opportunities to access something unique. The first one is this Saturday night, where we'll be having a music and storytelling evening. It's this Saturday night at 8:30, and some of the teachers and students will be performing and presenting stories of inspiration, connecting to personalities from the Kabbalah past, and really something, I saw a little preview on Facebook. I don't know if you had the opportunity to check it out. It looks very special, and we'd love to invite you and anyone that you think might be interested. It's free of charge, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Then on Tuesday, 1 week from tonight, we're starting a 2-week seminar called Time Out, the Energy of the Seventh Day. Daniel will be teaching that. And that is an introduction to the energy structure of the different aspects of what we call Shabbat and how to connect with them. So it's 2 weeks, $30 for the 2-week seminar, not for each session, but for the whole 2. And then lastly, we want to invite you to the new moon of Pisces, which, yay, is Thursday, February 15th at 8 p.m. For those of you that don't know, we get together every new moon for a lecture and meditation community-wide, and that's free of charge as well. It's good to understand the energy of the month that's coming and the opportunities that you can take advantage of during the month to maximize the potential of the month for you as a person. Any last... Oh. Okay, so you're going to get this card as you walk out this evening, a little reminder of the wisdom that we connected with tonight so that you can take it not only into the next 24 hours, but into whatever you encounter along the journey. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and good luck to us all.
Good evening.